Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I think it's a well-attended session from a panelist perspective because I have not got a chair to sit. So I'll be running the session standing. Right? First of all, I must say I am very honored to be amongst you esteemed panelists to moderate the session on changing cityscape, evolving infrastructure. But before I begin, I think let me start setting the context for the session, and so that there is some common discussion points which can emerge from the session, based on which even the audience can respond and ask further queries from our esteemed panelists. As we all know, more than 50% of the world population resides in cities. Indian cities are also growing at a rapid pace and is projected to accommodate more than double the current population in the next 25 years. So we will have about 87 crore, which is 870 million people living in Indian cities, about 4,000 cities. To accommodate this burgeoning population and evolving needs of the citizens, cities are undergoing transformational shifts in their architectural, physical, and technological landscapes. The metamorphosis is driven by the growing need for inclusive, accessible, resilient, sustainable, and efficient urban structures. Many of our cities have grown organically in the past, and the challenge ahead for Indian administrators is how to retrofit, repurpose, and/or redevelop the features such as transport nodes, infrastructure grids, economic zones, etc., historically which have been largely unplanned. So some of the themes and attributes which are emerging to cater to the challenging cityscapes are sustainability, inclusivity, and adaptive reuse, mixed-use development and smart infrastructure, decarbonization in infrastructure, smarter, faster construction practices, and for this theme we also have a TL which was released today in the morning, and innovative practices for financial sustainability. The intent, I think, for urban development is to enhance the overall quality of life of its citizens and foster economic growth, social well-being, and environmental sustainability while promoting inclusivity, accessibility, and community development. In light of this background, I would like to open the discussions with the panelists by posing a few questions to steer the discussions. So let me start first with Mr. Punit. Mr. Punit, given the body of work that you have carried out in the area of architecture, and you are also a practitioner, what, in your view or in your definition, how do you define smart city? Because everybody has their own definition of smart city, but how would you, as a practitioner and academician, how will you define a smart city?
Thank you, Mr. Sareen, for that question. See, we all know that there is no specific definition of a smart city which kind of exists. Every field, every business, every profession defines it in a very different manner. With my 35 years of experience in the architecture and planning world, I personally feel that smart cities are all about making the cities livable and resilient. Okay, everything else will follow. Now, livability has a lot of attributes to it. Resilience has a lot of attributes to it, but it cannot be mistaken with, say, sustainability. So resilience in terms of being able to bounce back in case of anything untowards that happens with the city. A city will be smart if it is resilient. But when we come to the livability aspect of it, there are various issues that any city has to look into. But for becoming smart, what is most important, which I think only a few cities in India have been able to demonstrate that, is that the government as well as the people have to first decide what they want in their city. It's not about the government, forcing something upon you. It is not about the aspirations of people which are not being fulfilled. It has to be a mutually accepted benchmark of what the city is going to be like. Sure. So just to put this in perspective, for example, the city has to be well performing in terms of governance, which means the government has to be people centric. It is not to be politically centric. It has to be people centric. The interest of people comes first. That's the most important ingredient. Thereafter, it has to make the entire city socio-economically sustainable, which means you have to look at the society, you have to look at the economy all across. It cannot be isolated or, one-off. Mobility is a major challenge in Indian cities all across, and especially the transport disadvantaged groups. We are unable to cater to them. So that's another area which, needs to be addressed. Then when we talk about health and education, we have to provide health and education for all. Today, health facilities and educational facilities are still far beyond the reach of many people who are, living in cities. Sure. Finally, livelihood and housing. Even that has to be provided. We cannot have people coming in from the hinterland looking for work and not finding work, or if they find work, they have no place to live. Affordable housing, the program which was started, I don't know whether it's been able to do the kind of justice it was meant to be doing. And finally, we also have to be responsive to the environment so that no environmental damage occurs as the city grows. So this, I think, if these 5 or 7 attributes are put together, that forms my definition of a smart city.
No, it is a well-rounded description of smart city, and thank you for that. But I would now like to bring Sarah into the discussion and ask her from a global perspective. And you have seen many cities, and you have been global head of cities for KPMG. What do you feel are the fundamental blocks of a great city?
Thank you, Karun, for the question.
Yeah.
I've been a city practitioner for over 25 years, and I have a passion for cities. So I think the bulk of my experience has been in Australia, the UK, and the Middle East, so I can't speak for India specifically. But globally, I feel that there's 4 key elements to smart and successful cities. I think the first and foremost is a robust urban planning. So not firefighting, but looking forward to the future. The ability to foresee. And yes, we get it wrong, but I think the planning phase is very important. And the ability for us to build in adaptability and flexibility in our city plans. 2, I think digital connectivity is super important. It has the power to connect even the most remotest of communities into the city for jobs, for education. For example, in Australia, the biggest growing education sector is the virtual school. Even in the remotest part of Australia, they're able to connect into tier 1 schools and universities because of the digital connectivity. So I think our focus and our spend in digital connectivity is important in cities and in our suburbs. 3, I think adopting a sustainability mindset. It's not only in the planning and in our building practices, in the choice of our materials, in the ability to reuse the materials, but just thinking of circularity in the economy. Do we need that car or that second car? Can we take public transport? Can we work from home? And this is a call to also the large organizations and government bodies is to think about these things and build in a sustainability mindset in the way we live, work, and play. And last but not least, I think it is a genuine citizen engagement. At the end of the day, cities belong to all of us. We all live, work, and play in this space in urban areas. So I think the ability for us in real time to gather citizen engagement and comments and improve the way we deliver city services and the way we set up our cities for the future is very important. So I think those are the 4 things I would say, Karun.
Thank you so much. I think digital connectivity and citizen-centric services, the 2 pillars that you talked about out of the 4 pillars. I would now want to come back to India and back to somebody who has implemented these projects around these themes, Mr. Anil Tadkod. Sir, we would want to understand from you what are some of the impactful and innovative technology solutions which are being adopted in delivery of citizen-centric services in Nashik and in India in general.
Hello. Yeah. So I come from a city of Nashik. Basically, Nashik has got a different challenge in terms of Nashik is a spiritual city. It is also a winery destination. So it has got both the extremes. We have got religious heritage, spiritual sites, as well as winery destinations and all others. So our challenge was basically to use, to implement all these technology-related projects in the existing environment from a sustainability and from a resilience perspective and reusability perspective. So basically, we asked Nashik Municipal Corporation that exactly what you would like to do in the area of education sector. So one of the important project that we did, that Nashik Municipal Corporation said that we have got approximately 150 municipal schools. Okay, and they are basically, the admissions of the schools are going down. People are really interested in joining those schools, but the schools are not in a shape. So we have done a very recent project we completed. We converted approximately 89 schools, smart schools, state-of-the-art schools. 656 classrooms we converted into smart classrooms. We also, after converting those into smart classrooms, we also ranked those schools, because the ranking is always there in the colleges now. So we thought, let's do this ranking-based system in the municipal schools. So we we gave them a mobile application as well as a web application, and we told them that let's rank the schools so that the parents can decide which schools they want admissions. So because of all these things we did, entire smart school, conversion of this school into smart, all those classrooms were in a dungeon. If you look at, they were all in a bad shape. So the challenge was to reuse them. So we reused those buildings, we reused those classrooms, and we converted them into smart classrooms. And because of this, the admissions have increased by 35% now in Nashik. So this was one of the impactful projects which we did. And Nashik is also surrounded by Godavari River. It is a notorious river during the time of rainy seasons. So we have got a lot of situations during the flood. So we have created an emergency operation and disaster center. So this disaster center is connected to the entire irrigation department, to all various departments across the cities. And this disaster monitors, we also have flood sensors installed across the rivers, across the nalas. These flood sensors give us the real-time data. And these flood sensors, based on this real-time data, this data is transferred to various different stakeholders. We have a surveillance done through drone. We have trained our people, trained our municipal corporation as well as the fire departments as well as the irrigation department. We made them drone pilots. So they are official drone pilots now. So they use those drone systems for all those calamity or the procession and the nuisance gathering through drones. So, and we have given them satellite phones also, and we have connected them, trained them on disasters also. So this is something, one of the project which is ongoing. It is 90% complete. And we all, from a surveillance perspective, we are also taking care of various different traffic related issues. We are ease of congestion, ease of environment issues. We are connected environment sensors to all over the areas. So this is one of the project. And we also, from a heritage side, we have converted one of the ghats. There was a ghat in Nashik city which had to be kept as is, but it had, we could not do much zazzy thing in that ghat, but we had to keep the ghat in a similar situation, but at the same time we also had to give facilities to the citizens. So we converted that ghat into Goda Park and converted it into 3 different zones: spiritual zones, entertainment zone, as well as purely walking zone. So this ghat is already ready now, and people, we have seen that because of this ghat nobody was going into that ghat. Now we are seeing 60% people are going into this ghat, and this has become a more or less monetizing method or monetizing strategy for Nashik Municipal Corporation. So these are few of the projects that we have done, which has changed the lives of Nashik citizens as well as the Nashik students, basically.
So it must be a very proud moment for you to see the effect and impact of what you have created over the last 5-6 years. Now I come to Sumeet. Sumeet, you and your organization is in the forefront of urban development, and you are doing a lot of work in India as well. What trends do you foresee in urban design and infrastructure development over the next decade from India's perspective?
So I think the way we see that the trend is mostly driven by how the history has been performing. So Smart Cities mission by Government of India has put a lot of impetus on rethinking how we were using our infrastructure, how we were developing our cities. And when we design, we keep user-centric. I think we heard the previous panelists, everybody spoke about citizen-centric, user-centric approach. And that's what we keep as part of our center, whether we are designing an urban planning system or we are implementing or designing a technology system. While we work on both these systems, we try to look at a minimalistic approach by ascertaining that the benefits are driven to users and citizens. Now, keeping this fundamental in mind, what we see that initially we tried to adopt what was being commonly implemented in Western countries. That was our first stance, how the smart city rollout happened. But very soon, the administrators, the public at large, other policymakers, they understood the characteristics of India. We understood that we have 1.4 billion population and it needs a different kind of setup and a set out required to accommodate the requirements. Now the situation is that we are characterizing the global norms in a way that suits India. You will see that initial rollover of smart cities was about redevelopment, which you just spoke in the initial talks, and restructuring. But now government is also looking at greenfield because they saw the challenges that we deal with. It's a lot of challenge in terms of when we try to fit into an existing system, while we also want to bring out a model of how the modern cities of India could look like. So if you see that the 15 Finance Commission funds that are being rolled out in India are driven towards the new cities. The teams are working on it. We have also developed concepts on those lines. So now what we are also looking at the resilience, because we have been hit by disasters in many cities. So this is one of the key factors that we look at while we design the cities, whether it is earthquakes or it is, let's say, floods, urban floods. So keeping all that in mind, and in terms of water shortage, which is a daunting situation which is about to hit us. Now, keeping all this in mind, what we see that there are certain common factors which have to be there, whereas every city, every small urban agglomeration has its unique characteristic in terms of its economy. Now, that also has to be taken care of. So, if I shorten my statement now that while resilience and basic amenities are the core which has to be managed, there are characteristics which we try to put into a city planning or a technology integration so as to suit the needs of the occupants or the final occupiers who are going to be using that facility.
Okay, thank you so much. Now I move on to Mr. Parveen Sharma. You are the CEO of BIM Engineers, and I think BIM technology is in your blood, right? So I just want to ask you that, can you elaborate the role of BIM in addressing the complexities of large-scale urban development and infrastructure projects?
Definitely. Thanks for asking this very important question.
Yeah.
And let me try to engage the audience. Before I explain why new technology, first we have to go back and understand what is the problem we are trying to identify. All of us are engineers and architects, belong to architecture, engineering, construction community. Let's identify the key problem areas in our daily routine life. What are the challenges in our industry? If the audience can help me in identifying some key aspects, then we can discuss about the solutions, which we are propagating for almost 2 decades now. I can help the audience by numbering some of the major challenges like lack of communication, lack of coordination, designs are not accurate, not even a single project has been ever completed on time, and not even a single project has ever completed within the estimated budget. So cost overrun, budget overrun, design optimization, challenges, coordination issues, communication issues, these are the major challenges. And believe me, sir, BIM hits the bull's eye. It exactly targets all these aspects, whether it's lack of communication, transparency, better planning, better control over cost, and better control over the timeline of the project. By adding new dimensions of third, fourth, fifth, seventh, eighth, ninth dimensions, BIM enriches the information in all the stages, from planning to design till construction, and even the project does not finish till the construction. It further goes into operation and maintenance. So if you have better control over information using BIM, the life from planning to design to construction, facility management, even in future you have to renovate or even demolish that project, you still need that planning and information. So BIM definitely brings value to all those stages in a design and construction project. I hope the audience will agree.
Yeah. So thank you so much. And now I will move on to Mr. Sandip Dasgupta. We have spoken about the drivers of city development and technologies at the forefront. But I will now move the gear a little bit to the building blocks of city development. And the building block is cement. If there is no cement, there is no city development, right? So I would want to ask you, and we know that when we talk about decarbonization, cement is also at the forefront of discussions because a lot of this embodied carbon gets built into the cement that we use for building our cities. So can you elaborate on the sustainable practices and advancements in cement technology within the cement industry, which are helping in faster, efficient, and sustainable construction for urban development?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Karun, for bringing a very important topic into forum and to our honorable panelists who have already contributed to so much things and the distinguished delegates. So basically, I'm from an industry, representing an industry, cement industry, which is perhaps one of the most pollutant industry to be admitted, correct? So, but at the same time, that is one of the most important part of your construction, which ultimately will contribute to your smart city development, will take a lead role. Because if there is no building, no construction, there is no question of development. Now, looking into an amalgamation in this forum, I'm checking about this type of organization where we are from the building material side, there are also representatives from the automobile side, from everyone's side. Now everybody has a role to play. Now how cement can contribute? Now to go to that, we have to understand how much cement is important from the economical point of view as well. It is not only a question of decarbonization or not. Because if you look into the global economy, now in the global GDP, cement contributes 5.4%. And the global employment, it is 7.7%. Okay. So, looking to the global perspective, we cannot say that this industry we can replace immediately with a substitute material. Now, what is the way forward? The question automatically comes. The way forward is that how these organizations like cement companies come out with more sustainable approach so that they can contribute to this overall sustainable development in a better way. Now, if you look into, say, for example, an normal OPC cement concrete. So, if I have an embodied carbon dioxide emission per ton is roughly around 370 370 kg per metric ton of production of concrete, cubic meter of concrete. The same concrete with a replacement of supplementary cementitious material like slag, with a replacement of 70%, can brought it down to roughly 140 kg per cubic meter of concrete. So you can just imagine, just by using a better supplementary cementitious material, it is a cementitious material, but we have to use it properly for the overall development. So the onus is not only the organization as on the cement, but it is the onus on all the distinguished architects, engineers who are present and who are across the country to inculcate that culture that yes, we should go for that sustainable development, and accordingly the supplementary cementitious material, which are the industrial byproducts, which are available in abundance in India, how better we can utilize that. So the technology is there, everything is there, it is the adaptability from all perspectives.
Sure, I think it is a collective effort which is required for us to migrate to a more less carbon intensive cement, and I think we can take note of that. And any follow-on questions, I would encourage audience to ask once the session is over. I come back to Mr. Punit. So, I have a question for you. Because you are at a very senior position in Council of Architecture, and we know that talent is one thing which is in shortage, right? The right talent to build the cities of future. So how does Council of Architecture envision contributing to the evolving cityscape in the coming years?
Yeah, interesting question. So Council of Architecture, as many may not know, is a statutory body constituted under the Architects Act 1972, and it is given the power of regulating the architectural profession and education in the country.
Yes.
So architectural education and profession encompasses everything that will go into making the built environment. So what the Council of Architecture does primarily is, number one, for as far as education is concerned, it prescribes the syllabus that is to be taught all across the country, and this syllabus is always evolving. It keeps on evolving, it keeps on changing. Every year, every 2 years, every 3 years, new topics are brought in, old topics are taken away, technology is being brought in. So the Council of Architecture is very, very abreast with whatever is going on in the country. And in fact, we are also trying to keep ourselves one step ahead in trying to envision, what is going to happen. So, I mean, just to give you an example, for example, now we are looking at introducing the parametric design, the digital technology into the architectural syllabus already. So that thing is already underway. We have collaborations with various government departments wherein we are, bringing in issues of, for example, mobility for the transport disadvantage that I mentioned earlier, as to how do you create barrier-free environment. So all these aspects which will go into making our cities more livable are already being envisioned as far as our syllabus is concerned. So that is as far the education. Now when it comes to the profession, when we are regulating the profession, we are also now looking at very, very significantly taking a stride towards bringing in continuing education programs for professionals. So whether we tie up with the Indian Institute of Architects, whether we tie up with different colleges across the country, or we tie up with local associations, or we tie up with the research and training programs that Council does itself, the development of our intellectual capabilities is constantly going on. When it comes to the people who are in the teaching profession, we have a very, very regular regime of faculty development programs which are conducted through training and research cells across the country. Another big cell is being now constructed at Bangalore. And it's a very, very clear mandate as far as the Council is concerned that we have to keep the profession and the education of architecture absolutely ready for the future. So I can assure the audience, I can assure the House that the Council is fully charged with this responsibility and is going to live up to its commitment.
So it is very heartening to know that the talent of tomorrow and Council of Architecture, the way they are contributing to the evolving requirement, it is very heartening to know. So I come to Sara now. Sara, the theme of this session is changing cityscape. And one thing which has happened in our lives, and that is COVID-19. It has been a pivotal moment in the history, right? So what in your view are the global changes you observe in our cities in the post-pandemic era?
Thank you, Karun, for that question.
Yeah.
So post-COVID era is very different to pre-COVID.
Yes.
And certainly in the perspective of Australia, the UK and the US, I can say for sure that there's been a big shift in the way we live, work and play. So before COVID, we never used to work on Teams as a regular thing. So after COVID, obviously, the world is quite different.
Correct.
And in terms of the actual impact on the way we plan the future of our cities, what we find is what we term as sea change and tree change. Sea change being people from cities moving into the coastal areas, and tree change being going into the mountainous areas or into regional areas of the country to afford housing, because our cities are becoming more unaffordable. So post-COVID, because of the hybrid or work from home model that major companies and governments were encouraging or allowing. So this has become a trend. And even after the pandemic, that seems to stay, which means suddenly the housing and jobs markets in regional areas have boomed. I mean, my personal experience, I was based in Sydney prior to, up to 7 months ago, based in Sydney in Australia, where in my suburb, which is about half an hour away from the middle of the city, I could see the change, the number of new retail and coffee shops that were thriving in the suburbs, because a lot of people were working from suburbs, and the big pressure for co-working spaces.
Yeah.
So this is a big push, and all of our municipalities and councils across certainly the Western world are pushing to have live, work and play in the suburbs rather than putting all of this pressure into infrastructure. I mean, there's a limit to which you can build highways and input into transport, which government is already doing. But so we do see a distinct change in terms of that, and in terms of the way retail and housing demand has changed. And the role of cities is changing. The actual major cities, they definitely play a role in the civic and entertainment needs of our citizens, but not so much in terms of the housing and in the way we work. And so that I feel is the big change that we see post-COVID.
I think it's a nice phrase, sea change to tree change. Am I right?
Correct.
It's
Sea change and tree change.
Correct. It's a good phrase to have. And coming back to Mr. Anil Tadkod. Sir, now on the implementation side, while you spoke about the impactful and innovative technologies that you have used in Nashik Smart City, I just want to understand from you that what are the challenges you have encountered in integrating IT solutions, because that is one of the bane of these smart city programs. While everything looks good on paper, right? But when it comes to implementation is where it lacks. So what do you think are the challenges that you encountered in integrating IT solutions with existing urban infrastructure?
I think that is a very pinpointed and important question, because smart city, the way the concept looks, but the implementation challenges are enormous, because we have completed most of the projects. Some of them are completed, some of them are in the 80 to 90% stage. So we are really learned hard way, and there is a lot of expertise while implementation, and believe me, they are really enormous. It is not that easy to implement those projects, because the difference is in India, the smart city projects are basically kind of a 30-70, where 70% is more on civil infrastructure, 30% is more on IT landscape. Because India is a developing country, we don't have infrastructure which needs that IT integration or IT landscape, because most of the smart cities have a 60-40 or 70-30 kind of thing. So the challenge for marrying the integration of IT along with the civil infrastructure is really a huge challenge, because all those the city, if you look at from a perspective of Nashik Smart City, I believe every city will have its own challenges. But from a Nashik Smart City we have basically challenges in the range of reusing the existing infrastructure, heritage sites. We were not allowed to destruct or demolish any of those sites. We had to reuse those sites, we had to reuse those ghats, and it's extremely challenging to design. We had to evolve the designing. Our design was evolving at every point of time, and this created a lot of scope creep. And this created a lot of BOQ creep also. BOQ also changed a lot of time. Whatever we decided in the tender had to be changed. There are lots of additional factors we had to bring in later on. And we had a lot of, in India, there is a lot of issue in terms of governance perspective, compliance perspective. There are lots of institutions which come in with various policies. We have an institution, religious institution, we have got political institutions, we have got politicos, we have got administrative people who come with their policies. So keeping all those keeping all those things and all those compliances, building an infrastructure, and then connecting, integrating that with the technology and facilitating with the technology is extremely difficult, basically. But maybe if the smart city phase 2 comes up, probably we will be the best people to get the project done successfully, because lots of things we have learned a lot now. Now we know that anything that can be done and that cannot be done is something which we learned in this last 5 years. Because we now, anything looks, the strategy looks on the paper looks fine, but now we are so much learned, we are so much experienced that we can tell that this cannot be done, this is not possible in this city. So for example, I'll give you an example. We had a lot of non-revenue losses in Nashik Smart City because of old sites and old heritage sites. There were lots of leakages, water leakages. There were a lot of water problems in various different cities. So we thought that let us integrate all the water WTPs, raw water pumping stations, and all the water systems to SCADA. So we have been doing that, and we are in some areas we were successful. In some areas we had pipelines just which are 200, 300 years old. Nobody knows which those pipelines are. Whether those pipelines are really giving water to somewhere else or it is taking those water. Some pipelines are, the water is flowing, but we don't know till where it is going and to whom it is giving those water supply. So all those had to be channelized. We channelized everything. We connected that to SCADA. Now we have, in fact, we are optimized more or less, and our non-revenue losses has come down to 30% now. So that is something which we have done, and these challenges are enormous. So administrative challenges, lack of awareness, training, institutional challenges, political challenges, vested interests. There are a lot of vested interests. So all those things came in between, and we had to cross step by step each of those challenges and see to it that the projects are successful. And finally, we are in this stage where we are very near to closure now. So that's where this is. So it was a very important question. It is very dear to my heart, because I can give there is a laundry list of challenges, but I cannot tell this here now, because I can really give you a list of challenges to you. Thank you.
So I think, as you said, I think we are now better prepared and the learnings are there. So it's a journey, but I think we have moved in the last 6-8 years significantly through the Smart City program. And I think we have now more confidence to overcome these challenges. So it's on this positive note, let's move on to the next panelist. Sumeet. We have, I think, touched upon various topics in this session, but one thing which we have not touched upon is the role of private sector, right? Or private sector participation in urban development. So I just want to ask you, what all challenges and opportunities do you foresee in attracting private investment for green and sustainable infrastructure development?
So I think it's a different Pandora which we opened just now.
Yeah.
So I'll take a little extra time to explain this. I just jot down my notes also for this.
And we don't have much time, 5 minutes.
5 minutes. I'll do that in 5 minutes. So before we jump over to what is this dedicated financing or sustainable financing or green financing, let's try and put a picture to it, that what do we mean by it and how many categorization it has. So if you understand, it initially started with sustainable financing, where the financiers or the investors talked about that they want to invest, they want a return on it, and they want that it should not harm anybody. Second was that second layer came in when they talked about environmental financing. So this was a layer which was gradual evolvement of how the money is being routed into different sectors. And that's when the agenda came in that none of the investment should harm the environment. So they were environment protective about by the investment, and that's what they termed as environmental financing. It did not end up there because there was more need, because money was the main factor which was driving every effort that we are trying to put through. Then came in the green financing. Green financing was all about now putting in money for the green initiatives, solar power, water saving, rainwater harvesting, wind energy, hydro energy, etc. So that was the green financing level. And then we have the latest, most carbon rating and its trading as well. So now we have carbon financing. So what they're doing is, so there's an interesting story of why carbon financing is happening, and we as urban planners need to know about it. They want to invest, they want a return on it, and they want that it should not harm anybody. Second was that second layer came in when they talked about environmental financing. So this was a layer which was gradual evolvement of how the money is being routed into different sectors. And that's when the agenda came in that none of the investment should harm the environment. So they were environment protective about by the investment, and that's what they termed as environmental financing. that if one of the industry is not able to deliver the required or meet the required compliances, it can really fund out somebody who is able to do it and then ask from them the carbon rating or the carbon credits that they have earned from their side. It's a very common carbon rating trade that is happening across the world, and that's where the carbon financing comes into play. Now, what all these people are doing as part of their financing mechanism? So first they're doing is that they are building those organizational setups which will take up this kind of task of financing. Second, they are doing is they are investing a lot on the advocacy and the technology which is there to support this kind of work that is happening. And third is that they're ensuring that somehow the investment, if 100 rupees goes in, at least 110 rupees is coming out of it. So these are the three verticals that they're working on. If we talk about the risk and challenges that are there, mainly challenges. So it dates back to around 2000 year, when on the western side they had already identified this concept called vicious circle of blame. So it was a vicious circle of blame among the developers, the end occupiers, and the investors. Investors used to say that the developers are not ready to build that kind of system, so we cannot invest into it. Developers were saying that the occupiers don't need such green development, so we will not be fit to develop that kind of thing. And occupier were all the way saying that there is no availability of such a kind, and we don't need that, so why should we even invest our money into occupying such a space or infrastructure? So this continued. So in order to balance that out, what happened that there was a triple bottom line concept which was brought in, which now we know as ESG, but initially it was social, environmental, and economy, which we can also be terming as people, planet, and profits, right. So this is happening. So the unification happened. Now what we are struggling with is that the reporting. There is an open ecosystem that we deal with. There are infrastructure rolled out, but there are diesel cars running on those infrastructures. So are you really supporting, and are you really able to report back in terms of a green infrastructure that you have created? No, not really. Nonetheless, other than this, if you see at a global scenario, much a higher order level, then the countries are also contesting. Because many Western countries have now said that there is a lot of pollution that has happened, and we have done the developments, we have undertaken the development, so it's time to curtail our developments. But the developing companies, on the other hand, are saying that this is our time of development. We did not do this kind of harm to the environment, which happened because of the development on the other side of the western part. So this tussle and the war is again going on in terms of trade and economy, and that's where there is a lot of work going on in terms of trade agreements and the kind of regulations being put on developing countries, which they are not willingly agreeing to. So this all is there. And when you see this, you will see that most of the standards of sustainability, whether it is, and it is mostly in green buildings, we still struggle to bring the sustainability standards in the infrastructure or the transport space. I can remember hardly that Singapore, US, and Australia are the three which comes to my mind when we say they have the standard systems for infrastructure and transport. Otherwise, we have multiple of them in the green building space. So most of them are Western standards. Now, they are asked to adopt here, but developing countries have not been able to bring out that kind of coverage, because it will hamper the economy in a big way. And we will have to compete in a similar fashion, the way on a very high standards, which we are not ready with. So these are the challenges that we are facing. Although there is a lot of opportunity which is coming through. We all know that India, the way it has harped up on the 2070 target of net zero and at least 50% renewable energy by 2030. Nonetheless, there are a lot of CSR responsibilities being laid down by the companies, and they are taking sustainability as the core fundamental of supporting the CSR or utilizing the CSRs. We have now BRSR reporting in SEBI, so top 1,000 companies are required to report their sustainability practices and how the overall ESG norms are being complied. And I think these things will continue, and gradually. One of the most important part is, as soon as we are economically stable and more profound compared to today's date, we will be able to realize these additional benefits that the green systems will bring to us. But if we have the kind of variation that we have today in our 1.4 billion economy, I think there is some time that we have to wait for the entire per capita GDP to grow, so as to see that a better green infrastructure is accepted among the public. I think that's what I'll end with.
Thank you so much. I think it's a very deep and interesting subject, and there will be many questions which would be in the mind of the audience and me also. But I think we will leave it for later. If we have time, we'll come back. Coming back to technology, right? And Mr. Parveen, I just want to understand from you that in terms of innovation, you have explained BIM and you have seen that explained us the advantages of BIM and how it can be used. But what are the other emerging technologies do you envisage which will complement, right? Complement or enhance the functionality of BIM in the realm of city development?
See, in terms of city or smart city development, we can use digital twins. That means we are replicating the ground reality in virtual environment. So virtual construction, digital twin, Internet of Things, and we can use a hell lot of sensors for doing the analysis. So based on analysis, we can use those technologies for the benefit of the future design, renovation, expansion, facility management of the smart cities. So these are the technology already being in use, not a talk about future, but many advanced smart cities, if you see in Korea or Japan, even in Middle East, some of the smart city projects are already implementing artificial intelligence, virtual construction and design, digital twin. So BIM as a technology and we as an organization both are facilitating these implementation of advanced technology in close collaboration with BIM.
So which according to you will be giving you, which technology according to will you give the best return on investment? So if you have to give one technology along with BIM, which will be the technology of the future? Of course, everything is, but you give me one so that people take away that technology with them when they go back.
Augmented or virtual reality.
Okay,
and
chalo.
it is being used in real life, real case scenario, and that is very cheap to implement and very effective. You can get real feel of the project through virtual construction. So virtual reality will be that technology, in my opinion.
So here is an answer for you in terms of technology. If you have to take it back, AR, VR is going to be the technology along with BIM, which is going to be play a substantial role in city development. Now,
Sir, with very minimal cost. There is no
and-
cost to it.
yes, and also cost effective. Mr. Sandip, you touched upon when I asked you the previous, when I asked you the question, you said that collective effort is required, right, to push these sustainable cement and technologies around it. So, can you explain how does your company collaborate with architects, engineers, urban planners to ensure that the cement products meet the evolving design requirement of modern cityscapes?
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely touch upon that. But before that, just I'll touch upon how, as an organization or a cement producer,
Yes.
what we are personally taking care of or we are trying to implement so that we can reduce the carbon footprint or carbon loading on our society from the cement perspective.
Absolutely.
So if you look into that way, yes, we are working on 5 different pillars. One is that substitution of your clinker, which is the basic raw material, and the limestone. So ultimately the limestone depletion, the raw material depletion. So that we are substituting with clinker substitution, where we have got remarkable progress. In the last 10 years, we have reduced 66% of limestone utilization.
That is substantial.
That's one. So from 13-14 to 22-23, precisely 9 years down the line, we have reduced that way our product line. Now coming into that, your material perspective, alternative raw materials. So there also we have used the chemical gypsums, almost 45% in our process. Then we are using the other also like biomass and the biofuel. So these are actually giving a lot of things. So that is second point. Now coming to overall energy efficiency, we have reduced the overall energy efficiency to roughly 19.5%.
What is this efficiency, sorry?
Overall energy efficiency in the overall cement process, because it's a big process chain.
Okay.
Right from your extraction of raw material to clinkering to finished product, it is an entire value chain, basically, process. So that's where overall energy efficiency is roughly around 20% reduction we have done. Now, from the green and clean perspective, so there also we have worked in a very different way. And if you see, there are a lot of initiative we have taken, like we have reduced our overall plant's electricity, changed that into solar and wind mill electricity. Because in every cement plant, there is a captive power plant, you know. Now, this captive power we are generating from windmill and solar.
Is it called green cement? Is this use of technology used for making cement is called green cement? Or is
No,
this
it's not exactly green cement, but it is overall loading.
Okay.
Because if you see into the colony, the entire cement production, you need a huge energy. So that reduction of energy contributes overall. And of course, there are certain new product development which we are also planning, like geopolymer and all these things. Now coming to your question, particular question, that how we are collaborating. Now that is our initiative, but that technology transfer, that whatever the initiative we have, to have a more acceptability in the society, we are regularly interacting in various forums with the leading architects, the opinion makers, the decision makers, the government bodies. We are also giving a lot of interaction, deliberations, and the decision-making authorities as well in one forum. We are making one forum where the local people can come, because one is at the central level stage and one is also implementation at the local level stage. So we are working on both fronts. One is at the central level stage where the main decision makers has to take some call on the implementing of this, and even certain things which have been already taken care of. How to implement it at the local level by a cross-functional team to deliver it regularly and touch upon. That's how we are doing.
Thank you so much. I think I've got many more questions in my iPad, but I think time is short. So I will let the audience ask some questions. I don't want the audience to miss this opportunity. We have got 10-12 minutes to go. So first, participants on my right side.
Sir, my question is...
Sir, can you tell your name, introduce yourself, and then ask the question?
Okay. My name is Raghu. I'm from Mod Foundation, Bangalore. And my question is to the esteemed panelist. Sir, today we are talking about retrofitting.
So who are you addressing the question to? That also, if you
all
can,
the panelists, sir.
All the panelists will, then your question only can be taken.
Yeah, okay.
Please restrict to one or two.
Okay, I think anybody can take that. So, sir, we are speaking about the retrofitting, right? So, retrofitting is basically due to the urbanization, uncontrolled urbanization, and exploded city, right? So, today we have a phone or a cloud which says, boss, you are exceeding your storage, otherwise your equipment will crash. Is there a system in a city municipality to say that, boss, stop giving permissions for development, otherwise your city will stop, otherwise your city will crash? Unless until we do that, tomorrow, even next year, we'll be talking about the same retrofitting and things like that.
So can I ask Mr. Anil, if you can answer this question, because you are a practitioner.
Actually, if you look at, basically, you asked a right question, actually, but we are still a long way to that. We are still not, immediately, this will not, maybe over a period of time, when we start, if you look at, the retrofitting part came only when the smart city came into picture. Because if you look at smart city proposal, retrofitting is one of the part of smart city. Okay, so entire smart city proposal is built on a parameter of retrofitting. That is one of the major component. So when smart city concept came into picture and when all these 100 smart cities came around, the entire thing was to build all your infrastructure based on retrofitting. And that's where this retrofitting started. We started with, I told you that we had a lot of challenges in terms of reusing. So we had to reuse those, retrofit all those existing ones, and we had a lot of challenges. So now if you look at, we are really working with the municipal corporation to form a policy, in terms of form a policy, form a guidelines, in terms of which are the retrofitting, which are the infrastructures that really need to be retrofitted, and where which area is demarcated. We have to demark those areas for retrofitting. We have to demark those areas only for new development, because every city, if you look at the outer city, the outer infrastructure of the city is specially demarked for new development. Okay, but the policy is not there at all. More or less, the policy is kind of a old policy. Traditional policies are just coming up. So with smart city coming into picture, these policies are getting generated. So we have started this policy at all. So therefore, if you look at in smart city, when we started this project, we were told that you should do this project in a specified area and then start replicating it. So that specified area is called as ABD zone. ABD zone is called as area-based development. So we have to decide an area, and that area will be somewhere around 50 square kilometer or maybe 80 square kilometer area. So within that 50 square kilometer, we have to do all the infrastructure related development. And once that is successful, if we are successful, then we can replicate this in different areas. It cannot be pan city. So that policy is already there. So we cannot do pan city development. We have to first do a successful part and then we do it. So policies are getting to answer to a question is, policies are built, we are building those policies. It is an evolving thing and we are learning from it basically. So even the municipal corporation is learning, we are also learning and we are helping corporations to build those policies across.
Raghu, I hope you got your answer. Anybody else on this side first? Yeah. Please, can somebody give the mic to the gentleman?
Good afternoon, anyone. Honorable speakers. I have question for the...
Sir, what's your name, please, and who are you addressing the question to?
Okay.
These two things you have to answer.
My name is Yatindra Mishra. I am from Kanpur. Okay. I am from Kanpur. And actually, I have question for Anil sir. Sir, like I belong to a smart city. Kanpur is a smart city. When smart cities concept came to Kanpur, I saw that there was huge development, cameras, system are getting installed, smart traffic lights were there, and many more things. But after a year of installation, I found that most of the things that have been installed under smart city mission, they were not being properly, kept up. Things were getting ruined, and after some time, most of the things went offline. And installing these things cost a lot to government and at last to the taxpayer. And after 1 year, things that we taxpayer paid for, we are not getting it. So what is bureaucracy or government is doing so that we have to not invest same money on the same purpose. We find in US or in Europe, if something is done, it remains for a large number of, for a longer time. But India, I have found in Kanpur and Delhi that most of the things got ruined due to non-maintenance. So this was my question.
Actually, the answer to your question is correct. Actually, in fact, we have built all the infrastructure around as a part of smart city, and we have spent a lot of money on those infrastructure. So you are, I think, I understood your question correctly. You just tell me what is the policy for maintaining them in the future? Correct? So if you look at the policy for maintaining them in the future is already been defined by the government. The Ministry of Housing has already told every smart city to formulate a policy for monetization of whatever infrastructure that we have built. So as of now, see, when we started smart city infrastructure built up, we thought it is not for profit, it is for citizen. Then finally, over a period of time, we realized that yes, vendor has already promised 5 years of operation and maintenance. So we were all very happy. Everybody was very happy, saying that 5 saal tak hai, every 5 years operation and maintenance is there. But what about after 5 years? What about after 5 years? So that's a question was raised by every smart cities, and there was a lot of deliberations that happened. There was a lot of meetings that happened, and finally we decided that each smart city will come up with a monetization plan, and along the infrastructure that we have built. For example, we have implemented VMDs, variable message displays across. So when earlier we were giving only displays on those displays, citizen-specific displays on those boards. But now we are thinking that why not we give messages of various different retail investors and all that and take money out of that. So that has already been planned. We have already done our monetization. Each city is come out with a monetization plan. And this money that we recover from the monetization will be used for sustenance and maintenance of our future infrastructure. For example, the e-challan. You might have already thought of that. Everything e-challan is raised due to ANPRs and automatic number plate reading cameras and red light violation detection cameras. The police are giving e-challans. So what we are told police stations, police commissioners and everybody, saying that every e-challan, whatever money you get, 30% will be smart cities income and 70% will be yours. So that 30% we will be giving to municipal corporation as a part of their revenue for operating their, for maintaining their existing infrastructure. So all these things, for example, public announcement systems. There are public announcement system is meant for alert mechanism for various citizens. But we are now allowing other institutions, agencies, other institutions, other department like health department, education department and everybody to announce their schemes on the public announcement system by paying amount of money, a minimal amount of money. So that becomes a income to the smart. So we are all generating and our plans are all ready. We are getting the board approval and finally giving it to the Ministry of Housing for final agreement and approval to this. For example, lot of data that we are collecting. We are now huge amount of data collected through surveillance cameras, through various different alert system for flood analyzers. Flood sensors are giving lot of data to us. So we can now give this data for various different data scientists to do a lot of research, do predictive analytics on that. And that is something which we can sell in the market. Correct? So that is every city is doing that at their own way, and that is already happening. And you will see in next 6 months down the line, those will be finalized, basically.
So it's a classic sustainable model that we are talking about. So Mishra ji, you have got your answer. Now, anybody who wants to ask question on my left side? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ajay Agrawal. I am working on waste management services. My question is to Sumeet sir.
What's your name? Sorry.
Ajay Agrawal.
Ajay.
My question is to Sumeet sir. He talked about carbon financing. I want to know, like, startup like mine, how we can fund our projects through carbon financing.
I'm sorry, I did not get your question correctly. Can you repeat that?
How a startup like mine can get carbon financing to fund our projects for future and...
I would say it's a new setup, and we need to understand in detail. I mean, it's an institutional setup. It's not a retail setup yet. Leave about the carbon financing. Carbon financing, I said, as the fulcrum of the entire pyramid. That's on the topmost and mainly be dealt at a very high level. And because I think in the smart cities, only Indore smart city was one of them which could achieve carbon financing. I'm just putting an example. Otherwise, there are examples set out, but if you are looking at something smaller scale, maybe you can read through the fundamentals of how this trading is happening, but there are a lot of rules, regulations. So any small scale project may not be able to access it very easily. That's what I would say. On the other hand, there are possibilities, although, but maybe startup will happen at social or ESG reporting scale, but not at the carbon pricing and trading model.
So I think with this we can close the session. It is 3:15, and a lot of ideas and information got generated in this session. And I think what I take away from the discussions that we had is the hope, the positive messages and the learnings which we have got, which will help us to further develop the cities in the manner that we want to do, which is make it inclusive, accessible, sustainable, and of course smart infrastructure. I would want to thank my panelists and also participants to have joined this interesting session and have been a part of this whole thing. Thank you so much.